beautiful that is, that the nature itself, we are really the eco-spiritualists, if you want to put it. The ecology is really liturgical, because when you are connected to the liturgy, nature makes sense. So the east is where the rising sun comes from, but we are an Easter people. Get it? Yeah. We are Easter because we are facing east, waiting for the risen Lord to come and return. And so when the priest and the people are all facing towards the Lord in that great gesture, it is eschatological. That means to say it is a gesture that is looking towards the end of the world. I know it sounds very apocalyptic, but it is, because at every Mass we are proclaiming the end of this material order, and we are waiting the return of the coming Lord. And that, I think, is something that is lost in that facing each other. It kind of has that very supperish kind of feel, where, if Father is not looking happy and looking grumpy, then everyone thinks something's got to be done and something's got to be said. No, it doesn't have to be said. This is, of course, the problem. It is not Father's dinner, and it isn't our banquet so much as it is the banquet of the Lamb. Yes, it is. But it truly is the august sacrifice. And that eschatological outlook that faces towards the east, waiting for the Lord's return, is not represented in the priest facing the people. It's not there because, the priest I have in the Novus Ordo in my church have arranged my altar so that I am facing the crucifix. So I have placed a crucifix on the freestanding altar with an array of candles, which is very much in keeping with what our Holy Father is doing in what we call, kind of in a way, the Benedictine arrangement. But when I'm celebrating Mass, I am not facing my community. I am facing the risen and crucified Lord. So I'm looking at our Lord. And when I tell my people this, they understand this, They have the privilege of being able to look at the crucifix during the Mass. The priest should have the same right to be able to face the risen Lord, to face the Lord in his mystery. And when he has to look out and see everyone going to the bathroom, it's not very nice. Sorry, I don't mean to say that, but I don't want to have to see everybody going to the bathroom, walking back and forth. Why? Sit down. It's only 1 hour. You don't need to go that often. Sorry.
All right, let's talk about a sore point for many, many, many Catholics: Eucharistic ministers. Oh, yeah, well, let's say, all right, all together now. In the proper order. First of all, what's their official title?
Auxiliary Ministers of Holy Communion.
Mm-hmm. That's very different from most parishes. Hey, we need some more Eucharistic ministers. Please come up here.
Oh, man.
Why the absence of the word minister, or Eucharistic minister, or minister of the Eucharist? Why is that improper?
Well, again, we go back to the Sacramentum Caritatis, this beautiful document that was issued 3 months before the motu proprio, where it speaks very specifically in regards to this reality that ministry is proper to the ordained. So there's not ministry to this and ministry to that. You have the apostolate as lay people. The glory of the lay identity is that your work is the work of the apostolate. And you go out and you do things and you salt the earth and you light up the world and you become the leaven in the dough and you do all sorts of things that are just so exciting and adventurous because you're taking terrain and land that we'll, as priests and religious, we can never come to or even approach. You are there and you are no different than your contemporaries, so you're in the middle of these things. One of the problems that happened after the council was this idea, this interpretation, that we must engage the laity in the work of the church, and they constituted that to mean the sanctuary. Oh my gosh. Oh, no, really, your apostolate isn't about the sanctuary. Your apostolate is in the world. You need to be salt, you need to be light, and you need to be leaven. So you need to tell Nancy Pelosi and others that really, in truth, that is what you are supposed to be in the middle of the world. You are meant to bring to bear the light of a good conscience upon the social order. It is not about helping Father be a little priest or priestess. You are not to do that. Your role is something much bigger and more spectacular than doing sacristy things. I'm very sorry. Now, don't get me wrong. If you are doing the laundry and nice things for the priest in the sacristy, you are helping wonderfully. And if you are helping the priest visit the sick and take Holy Communion, that is a beautiful apostolate, and I don't mean to diminish that. But we must understand that the confusion regarding lay ministry and lay apostolate has been disastrous for the whole church, because it has fomented this idea that we are not obliged to go into the middle of the jungle and convert the hyenas. We say, well, let the hyenas run, and if they devour our unborn children, well, at least we have a very organized sacristy. No. Sorry.
Sorry. No apologies, Father. Let's talk about Holy Communion in the hand. Here we go, another one. We got a whole list here, folks. It's interesting, in a book that I'm going to talk about in the wrap-up, a very high-ranking cardinal says that we must remember that Holy Communion in the hand began as an abuse. And a lot of people don't realize that. And you can talk to Catholics, good Catholics, who, everything's right. And just, they somehow seem like offended, or, I'm a grown man, or I'm a grown woman, I can take communion in my hand. Talk about this whole thing about Holy Communion in the hand. What's the issue here?
Yeah. Well, again, it is by indult to our nations. And
what does that mean?
An indult means a special permission has been granted by the Holy See to various national churches to be able, or national bishops' conferences, to permit the communion distribution by the hand. I grew up receiving communion in the hand. We didn't know that there was anything different. We just assumed that was the way Father told us to, so that was the way we did. But there is a certain ambiguity even in this indult, and the ambiguity consists in this sense of taking and receiving and holding, and it is in some way ambiguous, because our Lord really isn't someone we grasp and take and do with as we wish. He is rather the gift from the Eternal Father which we wish to receive. And reception is beautifully embraced and modeled in that gesture of reception of communion on the tongue while kneeling. It is really quite remarkable that gesture says everything about our Catholic belief. And we must always remember that has never been abrogated. In fact, that is the norm. It is like in so many other things where we thought this was gone, or we thought that this had been completely suppressed. But that's the norm, you see. And you see, this is the funny thing about this motu proprio. When the Holy Father reveals this, he says to us that it was never abrogated. The old traditional Latin Mass was never suppressed. Well, then you sit back and you say to yourself, well, if that is true, then there must be a lot of things that I had presumed, but I presumed wrongly, you see. And we have this window of opportunity. We must take advantage of this window and say, well, now let us examine this. If this is indeed what the Church says, and the Church says that the norm is the reception of communion on the tongue while kneeling, and that no priest has the power to compel you to receive standing and in the hand, that is a real powerful statement from the Holy Father to say to every Catholic faithful, the priest cannot deny you the right to receive communion while kneeling on your tongue. You have the right to receive that. That is from the Church. That is the official statement of the Church. And wow, that is quite a statement, eh? Because I'm sure if perhaps of you have experienced the negative repercussions of kind of challenging that, I would not say to challenge it in the communion line, perhaps to maybe inform